Chapter 8, The Predators. Corporate greed. A corporate predator is a business entity or individual within a corporation that engages in exploitive practices for profit and power at the expense of others. These corporations turn a blind eye, operating with little regard for ethics, sustainability, or the well-being of their employees and/or customers. Instead, their primary focus is on dominance, expansion, and maximizing profit, often employing manipulative tactics in order to gain these advantages. Corporate greed has grown increasingly subtle and pervasive in recent years. It's no secret that profit drives the corporate world, but today's corporations have mastered the art of appearing customer-centric. Yet beneath their polished exterior, they are dismantling small businesses, eroding trust, neglecting customer service, and using manipulative tactics to turn their customers into mere data points. Every interaction, from your browser history to your purchase preferences and even your personal interests, is collected, analyzed, and sold to the highest bidder. Your choices are no longer private or personal. They're assets that corporations trade, profit from, and use to sway your future buying decisions. They've essentially become digital pimps, exploiting your behaviors and desires to serve their own bottom line. And the worst part? You're being coerced into their services, often without realizing it. Whether it's through targeted ads or manipulating your social media feeds, these companies embed themselves into your life in ways that make it almost impossible to opt out. Customer-centric? Guess again. Most U.S. companies offshore their customer service, using misleading advertising and swallow up small businesses under the guise of, quote, partnerships, end quote. It's a subtle but calculated takeover, one that undermines the personal connections and trust that used to define commerce. If I cannot trust a company's business practices, I'm certainly not going to trust the quality of their products' ingredients, resources, and manufacturing processes, let alone their safety practices. Business used to be fair, a simple transaction where one person offered something of value in exchange for another's of equal value. It was a relationship built on mutual benefit, transparency, trust, and equity. But today, corporations have shifted their focus towards winning at all costs, ensuring that their value not only exceeds, but usurps yours. Impact on agriculture, animals, and oceans. Corporate greed has also infiltrated nearly every sector of agriculture, overtaking natural means to grow food, how animals are raised, and oceans are harvested, all in pursuit of profit, regardless of the environmental or ethical consequences. The industrialization of agriculture, fishing, and farming are depleting our sources, driven by bottom lines rather than the well-being of the planet, animals, or humanity. We're consuming far faster than nature can replenish. Factory farming, one of the largest contributors to corporate agriculture, treats animals as mere commodities rather than sentient beings. In these industrialized systems, animals are crammed into confined spaces where they barely have room to move. Chickens, pigs, and cows are all bred for rapid growth, usually with the help of hormones and antibiotics, straining their already fragile bodies, which often results in chronic diseases in the very meats which humans then ingest. Most of these animals live in filth, standing in their own waste, developing sores and infections that go untreated. The sole focus is efficacy and profit, producing the highest yield of meat, eggs, or dairy at the lowest possible cost. The same greed is depleting our oceans, where industrial fishing operations strip ecosystems bare. Trawlers and commercial fleets use massive nets that capture everything in their path, including endangered species and other marine life like dolphins and turtles. These bycatch animals, caught unintentionally, are often thrown back, dead or dying, an unspeakable suffering and waste that only illustrates the greed and disregard for anything other than profit. As a result of overfishing, key species like tuna, cod, and salmon are now critically endangered. And entire food chains are unraveling. With fish populations depleted, marine animals are forced to migrate towards new waters or even into urban areas in search of food. It's not uncommon to see whales stranded near shorelines, sharks swimming closer to coastal waters, and marine mammals scavenging in human habitats because their food sources have been wiped out by these relentless corporate fishing practices. On land, industrial agriculture prioritizes growing single crops like corn, soy, or wheat for maximum profitability. These crops are preferred for their resilience, thriving even with the extensive use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides, which not only pollute the soil, but they strip it of essential minerals. Although resilient to these chemicals, traces of these poisons still wind up right in your Unlucky Charms cereal bowl. Year after year of overfarming leaves the ground with little to no nutrients left to support future crops. This depletion of minerals affects not only the health of the soil, but also the quality of the food we consume. Fruits and vegetables grown in overworked soil contain far fewer nutrients than they did decades ago, meaning that even when we try to eat healthy, we aren't getting the same nourishment. Corporate farming also encroaches on wildlife habitats, driving out animals out of their natural environments. With forests cleared for grazing land and oceans emptied of fish, animals are left with no choice but to migrate towards human settlements in search of food. In recent years, it's not uncommon to see wild animals, bears, deer, coyote, or even mountain lions, venturing into urban and suburban areas because their traditional food sources have been exhausted. We've all likely witnessed the ignorant, fear-driven reactions people post on neighborhood apps when they encounter these, quote, intruders, end quote, on their lawns. But the truth is, we are the real intruders, having encroached on the animals' natural habitats. If only more of us recognize that these creatures are not invading our space, we've taken over theirs. It's not too late to change course, but doing so requires that we adopt sustainable farming practices that restore the soil and nourish the planet. In the oceans, stricter regulations on fishing practices are needed to prevent overfishing, to protect marine life, and to keep our oceans clean of toxic waste. Most importantly, we must change how we view the natural world, not as something to be exploited for a quick buck, but as a system we are deeply connected to. Every action we take has a ripple effect, and we must begin to treat animals, oceans, and soil with the respect and care they deserve. The future of life on this planet depends on our ability to shift away from greed and toward practices that promote regeneration, harmony, and balance with nature. Excessive consumerism. Corporate greed also has fueled a culture of excessive consumerism, where profit margins are prioritized over sustainability and quality. Through relentless advertising and deceptive marketing tactics, corporations encourage a never-ending cycle of buying, discarding, and replacing. Isn't it interesting how our phones don't work as well when a new phone model just launched? This hyper-consumption model is not truly about meeting customers' needs. It's about keeping people perpetually dissatisfied and always craving the next product or trend. When I was in the process of researching manufacturing for my yoga doll productions, it took me an extra 3 years of research before going to market so that I was certain to secure a factory in China that used phthalate-free recycled plastics, which was not an easy task. Unfortunately, that particular factory went out of business during the COVID-19 pandemic. And since then, I haven't resumed production because it feels too hypocritical to manufacture a doll that promotes healthy practices while using toxic plastics. Phthalates and other toxic chemicals commonly found in plastic toys and dolls pose serious risks to children's health. These substances are used to make plastics more flexible and durable, but at a significant cost, exposing children to harmful chemicals during critical stages of development. Convenience and corporate greed directly affects the health of our children. Obviously, the best non-toxic alternatives are natural materials like wood, cotton, or rubber, or plastics that are BPA and phthalate-free, certified by safety standards. If customers become more educated and begin demanding higher quality, non-toxic products, it will create a shift in the marketplace. Ethical manufacturing companies, which prioritize health, sustainability, and fair labor practices, would not only survive, but thrive. But we have to consciously support these businesses, sending a powerful message to the industry that long-term value, safety, and integrity matter more than convenience or low prices. However, the price tag on a product isn't always a reliable indicator of quality or ethical manufacturing practices. Having manufactured activewear for over 10 years, I understand the cost of quality fabrics and sustainable production processes. Unfortunately, many large brands cut essential corners, choosing cheap fabrics and toxic manufacturing, then inflating their prices to maintain a, quote, premium, end quote, brand image. One well-known activewear company based here in Los Angeles exemplifies this. They produce garments overseas at minimal cost using cheap nylons, only to mark them up by 1,000 to 1,400% when they hit the shelves. What customers are really paying for is not superior quality. It's the glossy marketing campaigns, the perfectly curated brand image, the cost of gifting celebrities and influencers free clothing, and the cost for those same celebrities to post on social media, creating the illusion that wearing their products is a symbol of status and exclusivity. In reality, you're paying that company to market cheap clothing as a luxury brand. I'll say it again, you're paying for it. Nylon contains a variety of chemicals that pose risks to both human health and the environment. While nylon itself is a synthetic polymer derived from petroleum, the manufacturing process requires several additional chemicals for the dyeing, finishing, and enhancing the fabric's performance. These chemicals have been known to leach out during wear, particularly when in contact with sweat or heat, raising concerns for consumers who wear them regularly, especially during heated yoga classes. Additionally, nylon fibers release microplastics into the environment with every single wash. These microplastics enter waterways, accumulating in marine life and food chains, posing long-term risks to ecosystems and human health. Let me be clear, nylon is nothing more than thread made from plastic. These brands disguise unsustainable practices behind glossy ads and illusion of wellness while paying huge marketing dollars for influencer endorsements, banking on the fact that customers will choose convenience and costs over ethics and environmental responsibility. Why leggings? Because they're very cheap to make. Consumers are complicit in their own sham by supporting these predators. And I can't even begin to tell you how many, quote, wellness influencers, end quote, and yoga teachers I know personally who have bought into and consent to the marketing hype of this particular company, and many like them. Every time I see one of them posting about the brand, two things immediately come to my mind. One, I know they're getting paid. And two, it's obvious that money is more important to them than the well-being of their followers. Hashtag posers. What's worse, this company isn't just guilty of deceptive marketing, it's one of the biggest knockoff operations I've ever encountered. On two separate occasions, I caught their employees in my store in Santa Monica, where they openly admitted to me that their bosses had sent them to scout for designs and ideas they could copy. I followed up by sending a cease and desist email to their corporate office, complete with security footage of the incidents. Of course, no apology or explanation ever came. Hashtag predators. This experience didn't come as a complete surprise, and it's incredibly common in the fashion industry. I once worked for the founder and designer of a major fashion label. On several occasions, I accompanied her on shopping trips where she would purchase 10 to 15 pieces of clothing. And once back at her office, she would casually toss the shopping bags onto her assistant's desk and say, "Knock these off." That was it. No discussion, no acknowledgement of the original designer's work, just a straightforward directive to copy. Naturally, my production costs are 30% higher than most brands due to the fact that I source sustainable fabrics. Over time, I realized that for most consumers, price point mattered more than ethical and sustainable practices, unfortunately. There will always be an activewear company pouring billions of dollars into marketing their clothing as premium, all while selling you cheap, toxic garments. The question is, will you buy it? So as you can imagine, in addition to scaling back doll and toy manufacturing, I also scaled back the production of yoga leggings and activewear, all for these reasons. Sure, I absolutely could have been a gazillionaire by now if I had compromised my values and chased profits like many others in these industries. But at the end of the day, is it really worth selling cheap, toxic products just to be rich? For me, the answer is no. I wasn't born to play this human monopoly game. I was born with a spiritual purpose. There are plenty of ways to build wealth, but if that wealth comes at the cost of integrity, the health of others, or the planet's well-being, then what's the point? I'd rather stay true to my purpose, keep my karma clear, and leave a legacy I can be proud of than chase after short-term riches built on the backs of exploitation and toxic practices. I mentioned above that corporations thrive on cultivating a false sense of urgency in consumers, manipulating emotions to make people feel they need to act quickly or miss out. In the next section, I outline some of the most common deceptive practices that these corporations use to psychologically influence you. Tricks designed to keep you buying more junk and clutter that you don't even need. By understanding these strategies, you can recognize when you're being manipulated and break free from the cycle of excessive, unnecessary consumption. I've also outlined how the environmental impact of excessive consumerism is devastating. Factories producing fast fashion and electronics rely on exploitive labor practices, with workers in developing countries forced to work for minimum pay in unsafe conditions that negatively impact their physical and psychological well-being. Toxic landfills continue to fill with discarded clothing, older model gadgets, and packaging because the next collection or model has launched. Realize your power as a consumer by focusing on intentional purchases. Choose quality over quantity. Support ethical brands, and maybe even consider embracing secondhand or upcycled products. Along with focusing on sustainable resources and manufacturing, I include a disclaimer on my business's e-commerce sites to inform our customers that we reuse packaging. This way, they know to expect their orders in previously used boxes. We repurpose packaging from incoming shipments for outgoing orders, minimizing waste whenever possible. Meaningful change begins with small, everyday actions that support the environment. By truly embodying the understanding that self-worth emanates from within, rooted in your spirit, not in your material possessions, you begin taking crucial steps towards breaking free from the psychological manipulation that corporations rely on. They thrive by instilling feelings of inadequacy, creating a false sense of dependency on their products for you to feel worthy or complete. Knowing your true inner worth disrupts their abusive tactics, creating a resistance to these false pressures. Corporations must be held accountable. Governments and consumers alike must push for transparency, ethical labor practices, and sustainable production models. Since governments are often influenced by hefty donations from corporations, we can't entirely trust them to protect us. Consumers have the power because they decide where to spend their money. Ultimately, shifting away from excessive consumerism requires redefining success and fulfillment. Real happiness doesn't come from accumulating things. As I shared with you in the first chapters of this book, wealthy people are not happier. They actually tend to be more dangerous in their desperate means to cling to status-based relevancy founded on these illusions of success. And no amount of stuff can hide a lie forever. The bottom line is this: corporations driven by greed will never prioritize the well-being of others over their profits, just as a power-hungry politician will never be able to empower the people. Those who benefit from power are rarely motivated to share it. Once they've attained power, they cling to it fiercely, unwilling to let go. Think of a big wave surfer. If someone doesn't have the skills to ride a big wave, they won't be able to handle the power if they're lucky enough to land on top of one. In the frenzy, they'll focus solely on surviving, clinging desperately just to stay on the wave. Power is simply too powerful. The paradox is that the people most suited for power are often the ones least interested in pursuing it. Only someone with the integrity to resist the seduction of wealth, status, and influence is truly fit to wield power. Genuine leadership requires humility, selflessness, and a deep commitment to serving others, not personal gain. The challenge lies in creating governance and platforms that elevate such individuals and allows them to be heard, rather than rewarding those who are the most ruthless, ambitious, willing to sacrifice others for their own advancement, and/or blindly submit to a corrupt system. Earlier, I mentioned the fact that street gangs secure loyalty from new members by requiring them to participate in a crime as part of their initiation. This tactic implies mutual liability, making recruits less likely to betray the gang or expose their activities since they too are implicated and risk facing consequences. As I mentioned in the preface, the rich and powerful operate in much the same way. The predatory business leaders are no exception. Again, I've refused to compromise my integrity throughout my journey. Yet that hasn't stopped me from sharing powerful, inspiring ideas to some of the biggest sharks in the industry. It wasn't all out of being naive or foolish. It was because my drive to create meaningful, positive change has always outweighed my ego's need for recognition. Yoga doll invention. You think Barbie was a feminist icon before Margot Robbie's 2023 blockbuster? Think again. I spent 13 hardworking years creating the first movable fashion doll, driven by research showing how damaging traditional plastic dolls were to young girls' developing minds, self-esteem, and body image. A 2006 study, led by Dietmar Hallowell and Eve, found that girls aged 5 to 8 who were exposed to Barbie dolls experienced a stronger desire to be thinner compared to those who interacted with more realistically proportioned dolls like the Emmy doll, or no dolls at all. This research suggested that Barbie's unrealistic body ideals could influence young girls to internalize thinness as a standard of beauty, potentially increasing the risk of dissatisfaction with their own image and related issues such as disordered eating. Understanding these valid concerns about how toys can shape our young children's perceptions of beauty and self-worth at critical developmental stages, I began working with my yoga teacher's salary to bring my idea and my innovative invention to life, the world's first yoga doll. When I finally had a prototype, I pitched it to several toy companies, hoping to license it to one of them. I never wanted to manufacture myself. I flew to New York, Minneapolis, I drove to San Francisco, had several meetings here in Los Angeles, pitching my new patent-pending movable plastic doll design. I wanted to give young girls a doll that celebrated who they are as they are, not merely focused on looking glamorous. And let them move, for goodness sake. And I got a call from one of the designers at the major toy company that I had just pitched. She warned me that the company was planning to knock off my concept of a movable fashion doll. This is always a risk when pitching ideas to large corporations, part of the unspoken reality of the industry. Still, a part of me had hoped, perhaps naively, that they would act with integrity and respect for my work rather than copy it outright. Well, I am not going to let that happen, I thought. Knowing I was ahead of them with my design, and with finalized molds already complete, I made the bold decision to put my life savings on the line to produce the world's first yoga doll. My brand, As I Am, became the first to market with a movable plastic fashion doll designed specifically to move with a full range of motion, just like you. Because of this, other companies that released similar dolls after mine were limited to market them under different names, since they legally couldn't use the term yoga doll. But still, what a low move, right? Unfortunately, that's just how the world works, and these risks are expected when dealing with cutthroat businesses trying to stay on top of their industries, which increases the chances that they are led from corporate greed. Undeterred, however, I presented at Toy Fair in 2015, which was absolutely epic. There, I met one of the buyers from Target who took a chance on my innovative collections, opening a line of conversation to officially present my dolls and toys to sell at Target. I remember watching the film Joy, based on the life and business of Joy Mangano. I remember crying with relief during the scenes where the main character flies to China and she crawls through an air vent to find her molds after unethical business partners tried to shut her out of her own business. In that moment, watching another fiercely innovative woman who truly understood the exhausting struggle of manufacturing, safeguarding molds, and protecting patents and intellectual property, I felt an overwhelming alignment with her story. The Target. Although I am not currently manufacturing or selling my products at Target, they remain the most integral company I have ever worked with. I'm not just saying this because they were the first retailer to take a chance on a small business like mine. Their commitment to integrity, clear communication, thoughtful product selection, sustainability, and dedication to diversity are unmatched by any other retailer I've ever partnered with. Due to several factors, I had to temporarily stop selling to Target. The Trump administration's tariffs during the 2018 trade war significantly impacted small businesses importing from China, increasing costs and massively disrupting supply chains. My reps and brokers in Asia were frustrated with U.S. businesses, increasing all of their costs, making it impossible for a small business like mine to produce at a reasonable price. Additionally, the COVID-19 pandemic forced the closure of one of my manufacturing facilities, which I relied on to ensure recycled plastics and sustainable resources. On top of that, managing a brick-and-mortar yoga studio left me overwhelmed, making it just impossible to meet the demand. As a result, I had to reject orders and pause manufacturing operations. Third-party intruder apps. During the time I paused manufacturing, I was focused on running a brick-and-mortar yoga studio and wellness center. Now, just before opening my first studio in 2016, a third-party app entered the fitness industry, devaluing the services that fitness and yoga studios offered by siphoning our customers with discounted access to their app. The studio I originally tried to help in Brentwood was struggling financially because of this shift, and many other fitness studios were hit just as hard during that period. This uninvited disruptor altered the landscape of the industry, forcing small businesses to compete with their own services being resold at lower prices. In the next section, I'll share my thoughts on this now popular fitness app based on my experience as a yoga studio owner. Over the past 15 years, I have seen firsthand how this app has significantly contributed to the closure of small business studios. While it offers users the convenience and variety and affordability, its success has come at the steep cost of independent businesses. For the businesses that partner with this app, it's a financial nightmare. They take 50 to 70% of profits from individual businesses, which are small, local studios that are already fighting to stay afloat in a world dominated by corporate gyms and fitness chains. What's even worse, the app takes credit for the hard work these businesses do, creating the illusion that the app itself is responsible for customers' positive experiences. The app markets a first-class free offer to attract new users. But it's the businesses footing the bill for these freebies, not the app. The app's executive team mandates this practice, forcing small studios to absorb the cost. The truth is, however, this creates a cannibalistic system that thrives on exploiting small businesses while gaslighting them into thinking that they need the app to survive. These deceptive practices are a prime example of how corporations prey on smaller, independent businesses by exploiting their need for exposure and then profiting off their hard work. These local businesses put in the effort, creating programs, maintaining brick-and-mortar businesses, staffing, training, building relationships with their clients, offering high-quality services. Yet, the app swoops in, devalues the business services, takes the credit, and slashes the business's profits more than half, which means that the businesses now have to work twice as hard. This isn't a partnership, it's extortion and hijacking. And what do these predatory corporations have in common? A total disregard for the people who support them. whether it's their customers or the small businesses they claim to help. This app is draining the very businesses that make the convenience possible. That's not good wellness. So what's the takeaway? It's about recognizing the growing disconnect between corporations and the people they claim to serve. It's about understanding how far corporate greed has reached into our lives, manipulated our choices, stolen our hard-earned profits, and convinced us that we need them, when in reality, they need us. Without consumers, without small businesses, these corporations have nothing. But as long as we continue to support them, whether by using their services, buying their products, or accepting their version of reality, they will continue to exploit us. It's time to tell them to knock it off. Customer non-support. I've tried to illustrate the slow and subtle means of corporate greed sneaking into our lives. These larger corporations scale down their costs to maximize profits, sacrificing the unthinkable: customer service. I bet you can relate to this frustration: customer service rage. Remember when you could call a company, speak to a representative based in your country, and have an actual conversation where your issue was addressed and you received support? And those days are almost extinct. Today, most large U.S. companies no longer have U.S.-based customer support. Instead, they offload this critical service to offshore centers where English is not their first language and language comprehension is challenged. It's not just about returning a pair of socks that don't fit. It's about personal and important matters related to finance and home safety, where more than basic language comprehension is necessary to feeling heard. You call with a simple issue, and you're funneled through and you're looped around AI bots that don't understand nuance, or worse, you're connected to a human who can't grasp your problem because they don't comprehend your language fluently. Then, if they didn't hang up on you, you're routed around to someone else where you have to retell the same issue again, feeling trapped in the hellish loop of an automated and dysfunctional service system. You know the kind of rage this stirs. Again, this frustration escalates to an entirely different level when the issue at hand is something far more serious than returning an ill-fitting item of clothing. Home and driving sharing apps, for instance. While they market themselves as a friendly and personal alternative to hotels and cabs, the truth is that their customer service is mostly outsourced and near impossible to get a hold of in the event of an emergency. These are companies that, one, use your home and/or your vehicle to market and harness their profits. And two, they deal with safety protocols for domestic services within people's homes and on ride shares. Customers, however, cannot reach support agents who speak the language of their home country, and if they ask for this, they risk being labeled discriminatory. Think about that for a moment. You're staying in a stranger's house, something goes wrong, maybe there's a safety issue, and your lifeline to solving this issue is a customer service agent thousands of miles away who's only available at 1 o'clock in the morning your time, and who struggles to understand or prioritize your concerns. They're often reading from a rigid protocol manual without fully grasping the complexities of your specific situation. This is where the gap between corporate greed and customer safety becomes not just frustrating, but dangerously serious. Perhaps this neglect is intentional. Maybe these companies bank on the hope that frustrated customers will be less likely to call back, ultimately reducing service costs for the corporation, regardless of whether the customer's needs are met. In recent years, customer rage has become an increasing issue, fueled by frustration with poor service, deceptive terms, negligent practices, and the feeling of being powerless. This rage is more than just impatience. It's a response to feeling unheard and taken advantage of. In the end, these businesses may lose customer loyalty and have scathing reviews online, but they're still profiting financially, therefore they're not motivated to make change. They would rather damage their reputation and face legal payouts than risk losing profitability. Oh, that brings up another catch. Many companies have found ways to shield themselves from accountability by requiring customers to agree to binding terms and conditions. Often filled with dense legal jargon, they force customers to forfeit their rights to take legal action. Arbitration clauses and waivers are now standard practice, ensuring that even when harm occurs, the corporation escapes liability. Ultimately, corporate predators thrive when unchecked and when they've dominated an industry. Remember, their strategies are designed to maximize efficiency and minimize costs, not to protect or serve customers. Their intentional shift toward impersonal, outsourced service isn't just inconvenient, it's abusive. The psychological impact of customer service rage is reflected in the American Customer Satisfaction Index, called the ACSI, report that 80% of customers who experienced poor service felt increased stress and frustration. Likewise, a study published in the Journal of Service Research found that 74% of customers reported feeling angry and 42% feeling trapped when unable to resolve their issues efficiently. Personally, I believe there should be a governmental requirement for all U.S.-based companies to provide U.S.-based customer service, even if that is only for escalated matters. Influencers. I find social media exciting, I really do. So please don't get me wrong in this next section. It's connecting the globe in ways we never imagined possible, and I do feel it will someday heal more than it currently harms. However, most influencers and celebrities are being used by corporations as modern-day snake oil salesmen on their social media feeds. We've all seen the glossy Instagram post where a famous face endorses a product with a glowing caption, but how many of these influencers actually use the products that they're peddling? Spoiler alert, not many. The influencer economy is built on deception. Brands pay influencers enormous sums to market their products, and in return, influencers pretend they use and love said products regardless of whether they actually do. It is a transactional relationship with little regard for the truth or authenticity. How many celebrities can you name with their own makeup, skincare, or perfume collections? The list is endless. And do you know why they all jump on this bandwagon? Because they don't lift a finger while getting paid big bucks for it. The ingredients in these products are often strangely similar across the board, just repackaged with different labels and a famous face slapped on the front. This kind of marketing manipulates millions of followers into buying things they don't need, and often products that those celebrities didn't create. Yet, despite knowing this, people keep falling for it, buying into the hype. Quite literally. This being said, there are great influencers. There are those who share quality items, review products authentically, and we can consider them the small business owner of influencers. They're the original word-of-mouth advertising, sharing quality products and services that have enhanced their lives. They use their platforms to promote products they genuinely believe in and have personally tested. These influencers focus on building trust with their audience by being transparent about their recommendations. Rather than pushing items for a quick payout or commission, they carefully curate what they endorse, aligning their content with their values and the interests of their followers. Many influencers take pride in supporting local, sustainable brands and ethical companies, using their influence to highlight these products that align with important causes. Photoshop and CGI. With social media, influencer marketing, and digital advertising comes the overuse of Photoshop, CGI, and special effects, enticing you with altered imagery. Celebrities, influencers, and brands embrace these tools to craft flawless images that set impossible beauty standards. Once used to touch up slight imperfections, they are now used to create a deceptive world where everything appears unnaturally perfect. Smooth skin, sculpted bodies, and enhanced features, all of which are far removed from reality. The overuse of these tools sets a standard of beauty that is simply unattainable, creating an endless cycle of insecurity. When celebrities and influencers present themselves as effortlessly perfect, consumers, particularly young people, begin to compare themselves to these false images, leading to body image issues, depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and in extreme cases, suicide. A good friend of mine worked as a high-level creative director at a major network. He quit his job there because he was so fed up with spending countless, quote, creative hours digitally shaving off 20 pounds of back fat from a famous actress-singer personality during her publicity campaigns. Here's a woman promoting wellness while selling low-quality makeup, bogus supplements through massively photoshopped and filtered images on social media. I cannot be the only person that thinks this is madness. It's exhausting to watch these celebrities create completely fake personas and profit off the insecurities they help cultivate. The public eagerly consumes these carefully crafted images, unaware of the smoke and mirrors behind their creation. Having had the opportunity to meet many famous personalities, I can tell you this with certainty. They look just like you and me. The perfection we see on screens and in photos is an illusion. It's the result of filters, retouching, and curated lighting, as well as, of course, facial fillers, Botox, and facial resurfacing. Strip away the digital enhancements, the fillers, and plastic surgeons, and what remains are ordinary people, complete with imperfections, just like everyone else. Another friend of mine, a high-level FX producer, gave me even more insight into this insanity. She shared with me that around 90% of big actors spend millions, sometimes their own money, on CGI services to look younger, thinner, and more attractive on screen. CGI is basically Photoshop for film. Yes, the faces and bodies you admire in the movies, most of them are digitally enhanced to meet impossible standards. It's yet another illusion. Ironically, these same actors complain about and picket against AI rights and the dangers of technology taking away their creative integrity, while they're basically outsourcing their own humanity, creating AI-like versions of themselves that they claim to be real. The hypocrisy is staggering. If you're gonna argue for artistic authenticity and human creativity, maybe start by being real about what you look like and stop relying on digital trickery to manipulate your audience. The birth of detox retreats. Let's face another reality while we're at it. We're all gonna die, even those longevity wellness gurus. I'm all for enhancing well-being and guiding our bodies and mind towards staying healthy. But some of these wellness influencers, or so-called biohackers, take it too far, frequently promoting a one-size-fits-all approach to wellness based on pseudoscience. While some longevity gurus have legitimate expertise and offer scientifically backed advice, many regurgitate overhyped claims and unproven methods to sell products, services, or programs aimed at achieving a longer, healthier life. They often ignore the complex individual factors that influence aging, such as genetics, environment, mental health, socioeconomic status, and unique body chemistry. What works for a 20-year-old woman is certainly different than what will work for a 50-year-old woman, let alone the other myriad of variables influencing someone's health. Their solutions are often packaged with expensive subscriptions, supplements, or personalized coaching, once again, preying on people's insecurities and fears. And their extreme programs often backfire, leading to burnout, malnutrition, and weight gain instead of weight loss. Human beings are diverse, and what works for one person could even harm another. I learned this the hard way. When I was younger, I was a little guilty of thinking everyone would benefit from celery juice, meditation, and yoga. But I still believe that, except now I focus on a more minimalistic, customized, and mental approach versus dependency on supplementation and overhyped technology. 28 years ago, I was a young yoga teacher making waves in the blossoming LA yoga community. My approach was unconventional, strong, fluid, blended with dance and fitness movements that hadn't yet made their way into traditional yoga classes. At the time, the LA yoga scene was just beginning to take root. I didn't think much of my unique style at the time. It was simply how I like to move, drawing from my background as a dancer and experience teaching fitness. But it didn't take long for word to spread that my classes offered something different. One day, after class, a woman approached me with excitement in her voice. "Oh, Alanna," she said, "if you were to lead a yoga retreat, I would definitely sign up." Her enthusiasm caught me off guard, and without missing a beat, I responded with playful sarcasm. If I were to lead a retreat, it would be all women, and we'd fast the entire weekend. What I expected to be a quick laugh turned into something much more profound. Neither of us smiled. Instead, we locked eyes, and in unison we said, "That's a great idea." And just like that, the seeds of Goddess Detox retreats were planted. Those early retreats were nothing short of intense. We dove in headfirst, stripping away physical, emotional, and mental layers through fasting, movement, hot springs, meditation, and intentional silence. The weekends were raw in every sense of the word. I vividly remember the smell of garlic clinging to my hands, a sensory reminder to the intense detox process we had embarked on. I worked closely with Native American tribes, incorporating sweat lodges, silent nature hikes, and rituals that connected us to the land and our deeper selves. There was no playbook, no template, no social media to show me what a retreat should look like. It was never done before, so I was following my instincts and a willingness to explore. It was exhilarating, liberating even, because I wasn't limited by expectations or preconceptions. I was in the moment. Instagram wasn't around back then, and in retrospect, I'm grateful for that, even though countless extraordinary moments have to live in our hearts and not in our social media feeds. There was no pressure to make things look wanderlust perfect or photo ready. It was messy, uncomfortable, beautifully real, and always in divine time. We peeled back layers, sometimes too fast and sometimes too deep. And that's the thing about transformation. It isn't always gentle. Early on, I noticed how profoundly people responded to fasting, and we began to see the almost miraculous drastic changes in our lives post-retreat. We were manifesting before manifestation became a hashtag. Some experienced breakthroughs they weren't ready for, while others seemed to thrive in the freedoms that fasting created. It became clear to me that this work required balance, a delicate dance between pushing limits and knowing when to pull back. Less is more. Over time, I developed a more thoughtful approach, refining the structure and intensity of the retreats. I've come to believe that true transformation only happens when we enter a state of surrender, when we meet ourselves at the edge of our personal boundaries, whether that's physical, emotional, or mental. Lasting change arrives not through force, but through gentle acceptance, allowing the body to tap into its innate ability to heal. When we give our extraordinary spirits the space to restore balance to both mind and body, profound and sustainable shifts naturally unfold. I discovered that, more often than not, less truly is more, especially when it comes to the human body and personal transformation. Extremes and force often hinder growth and restrict our ability to expand. Just as children struggle to learn under pressure or coercion, adults need space and gentleness to thrive. The most important gift I could offer my retreat participants was a safe space, a place where they could breathe, pause, and allow themselves to unfold naturally in their own time. Today, there's an overwhelming abundance of supplements, which can easily become another avenue for corporate greed. While many supplements are marketed as essential for health and well-being, the wellness industry also preys on people's fears and desires for quick fixes. Some companies push unnecessary or ineffective products, again prioritizing profits over consumer well-being. After completing a cleanse, you'll likely notice a heightened sense of awareness around what your body truly needs. When the blockages of processed foods and toxins are cleared away, your body's signals become easier to interpret, whether it's a craving for certain nutrients or a newfound sensitivity to foods that don't serve you. This intuitive connection allows you to make more informed decisions about your health and helps you to identify when something feels out of balance. While intuition plays a very important role, it's still valuable to consult with your doctor. A basic panel of blood work can identify deficiencies such as low levels of vitamin D, iron, or B12, which can subtly impact overall well-being. Especially as we age, mild supplementation can be very beneficial to maintaining optimal health. However, it's important to approach supplementation with caution, rotation, and intelligence, not with dependency. Our bodies are inherently designed to seek balance, a state known as homeostasis. This biological process ensures that various systems like body temperature, blood sugar levels, and fluid balance stay within optimal ranges to maintain health and function. When something shifts too far in one direction, whether that's through stress, overexertion, lifestyle imbalances, or excessive supplementation, the body compensates by pushing back in the opposite direction to restore equilibrium. For example, if we overwork ourselves physically or mentally, the body responds with fatigue, signaling the need for rest and recovery. Similarly, consuming too much sugar can cause a spike in insulin, followed by a drop, resulting in a craving for more glucose to reestablish balance. This push-pull dynamic is the body's way of recalibrating, which we have to be aware of and honor. If we consistently push ourselves too far, whether that's through chronic stress, overtraining, oversupplementation, or poor diet, the body's attempts to correct itself can lead to burnout, illness, or imbalances such as adrenal fatigue, metabolic, and/or mood disorders. This is why paying attention to our limits and practicing self-care is crucial. It allows the body to maintain homeostasis naturally, preventing the need for extreme corrections or supplementation. Many people fall into the trap of oversupplementing, not realizing that most expensive vitamins and minerals are excreted through urine, literally flushing money down the drain. In some cases, overuse of supplements can even backfire. For example, when your body receives high levels of certain nutrients from supplements, it may stop producing them naturally, assuming that they're already in excess. This can disrupt your body's natural balance and leave you reliant on the supplement. The key here is finding the right balance, understanding your body's need through medically drawn blood work, supplementing intelligently, and listening to your body's cues. Quality matters too. Opting for high-quality, bioavailable supplements ensures that you get the most benefit without inadvertently introducing toxins into your system. Ultimately, the goal is to support your body, not replace its natural processes. Support small businesses. So the solution to lessening the grip of corporate greed lies in supporting small businesses. They are companies rooted in communities and built on trust, authenticity, and genuine customer care. And you've likely heard the following slogan: when you support a small business, you're not just buying a product or service, you're investing in a person, a dream, and a community. Unlike faceless corporations driven by profit, small businesses are built on passion and a commitment to quality over quantity. Additionally, supporting small businesses contributes to healthier market competition, which helps keep those larger corporations in check. It shifts the power balance away from monopolies that dominate industries and ultimately limit opportunities for entrepreneurs. Make buying choices that align with your values and vote with your wallet by supporting businesses that prioritize authenticity, fairness, and human connection. Say no to impersonal, profit-driven models that disregard consumer well-being or put health at risk. Through small, intentional actions, we can revive the original spirit of business, and every mindful purchase that you make contributes to a shift away from exploitive practices and corporate greed. You hold the power to make these changes.